Hey, welcome back to the Uncomfortable is Okay podcast. I'm your host, Chris Desmond, and this is the show where we make it easier for you to do hard things. First up, just a quick apology. Sorry that we missed about a week of getting podcasts out. Just a few difficulties with that, but we're back on the routine now. Today, again, I want to have a chat through one of the strategies that you can use to help yourself overcome uncomfortable situations. And this one is called the Brain Purge. So what is a Brain Purge? When you start creeping up towards the point of overwhelm with a challenge, that's when you want to use this Brain Purge. And a Brain Purge is walking away from the challenge to take some time out to reset. You remove yourself from the direct environment that you're performing the task in, which starts to reduce your mental stimulus. And then you perform a completely unrelated task that requires relatively low levels of concentration, or at least a different type of concentration. And this might be going for a walk, doing some body squats, folding some washing, or having a conversation with a colleague about that prominent local sports team and how well or how poorly they're doing. And once you've purged the uncomfortable feelings and thoughts about the challenge, then it's time to get back to work. You'll be in a much more productive state than when you left. But if you're really wrapped up in your head about the challenge, then sometimes just switching tasks won't be enough to purge everything out. So in this situation, grab a pen and paper and write down your frustrations to clear them out of your head and declutter your mind. If you're not a writer, then speaking them out loud might also work for you here. So where do I apply this? This is a strategy best used in the moment, or ideally before the moment has occurred, before you've hit that overwhelming state. And if you've developed your self-awareness to a point where you can recognize yourself getting frustrated or sneaking past the point of optimal anxiety, then this is where you want to apply the strategy. As you begin to notice these feelings starting to build up, quickly head them off at the pass and do a purge before your performance starts to drop. The longer you leave it and the further you go into frustration and discomfort, then the more you're going to have to get rid of. Your skill set at purging these thoughts and feelings is going to improve with practice, and you're going to become more efficient with them. A good rule of thumb, especially when you're starting out, is the further you're going to get into the discomfort, the longer it's going to take to purge and reset. So if you haven't yet developed the self-awareness around noticing these feelings, then you'll find that as you start to apply this strategy, you'll need to spend a long time purging your brain. The good news is that at some point I am planning on writing a book about self-awareness, but you may not want to wait that long before you start applying the strategy. So you can come back to the task that you've walked away from before you're completely reset. You're going to be more productive than when you're left, but you'll probably find that you start to reach overwhelm much sooner than if you finish off the brain purge and completely reset yourself. So this strategy in action, this is from a very recent guest. Tiomeka Morohu uses this frequently in his week. Once he notices that he's starting to get bogged down in his head, he steps away from the task. He leaves the environment that he's performing the task in, usually his desk, and sets off to do something else. He'll get out for a walk, he'll play his guitar, he'll chat with someone else in the office about something completely unrelated, or he'll head up to the park to talk with the dude that hangs out there. The important thing is that it's completely different to what he was working on that got him into that state. Once his brain is slowed down and his thoughts have cleared, he starts to head back. And he doesn't always spend time writing down his thoughts, but he'll often have a conversation with himself about his feelings and his thoughts, allowing him to process them and declutter his mind. So why does this work? Pretty frequently in the modern world, we can get ourselves into states where our brains aren't functioning the way that we want them to. We've stimulated them way too much with tasks and to-do lists, and that's taken our anxiety levels way past the optimal point where productivity starts to slide backwards. It's at this point our prefrontal cortex is overwhelmed. And for those of you not interested in neuroanatomy, basically the prefrontal cortex is the most evolved part of our brain. And although it has heaps of functions, goal management is its main business. And the prefrontal cortex orchestrates attention, working memory, and other cognitive resources in order to help us get what we want. So the initial step, taking ourselves away from that environment, reduces some of that overwhelm by changing the environment. We take ourselves immediately away from the stimulus, but our focus typically remains on the challenge, causing our brain to continue swirling about it, albeit at a slower rate. So the first step, removing that external stimulus. And then at this point, we change our focus completely away from the challenge into doing something really unrelated, ideally with our body and with our mind. And this change in focus gives our prefrontal cortex a break. So switching our activity to doing something else, using different parts of our brain, is like a recovery day in our physical training or a rest between sets. Then once you've had that rest and you've given your prefrontal cortex a chance to slow down, then writing down your thoughts or speaking them out just reduces the conflicting clutter of thoughts in our brain and allows us to come back rested with more focus. So that's the brain purge. That's how to deal with some uncomfortable situations. And this is one of the strategies that is going to be in the Get Out of My Comfort Zone book that I am currently in the process of writing. It'll be out later this year. If you guys want to register your interest for it, I'll keep you up to date with how it's going, and also with a couple of these strategies written down for you as well. Plus, probably hook you up with a sweet deal on the book as well when it does come out. Head over to getoutofmycomfortzone.com. You can pop in your email address. I'll flick you out a couple of strategies straight off the bat, and keep you up to date. But thank you so much for getting uncomfortable with me today.